Start recording. Yep. Oh, yeah, here we go. Lords and ladies, ladies and gentlemen, folks of all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds, and any other, qualifier you can think of, welcome. Welcome back to another segment, another episode of Talk Show. Talk Show. Yeah, so it's been a couple of weeks since the last episode, and, wow, what a couple of weeks it has been. That's putting it quite mildly. Quite mildly. What do we have to talk about today? Gosh, we have so much to talk about. I'm going to just kind of stay focused here and kind of cut through a bunch of stuff. The main story for today is a quick political recap. So my last episode was at the end of June. We're coming up on the third week of July. I'm going to focus on the first 2 weeks of July. For example, Independence Day has passed us. Well. I don't think we've ever had such a non-independent, such a non-dependent, Undependence Day. That's what we've had. As I like to say, not trying to make the show about politics, but Orange Face done crapped his pants, still cooking. The fascism crab boil. It's so frustrating. We're all kind of suckers for letting it happen, just FYI. And speaking of boiling, I kind of liken it to a pot of boiling water. And we, the people, have this boiling pot of water in front of us. We're kind of deciding, do we throw some ramen noodles in? But at the same time, the entire kitchen is on fire. So, folks, let's not make noodles, and instead work together to put out the kitchen fire. That's all I want to say. Anyway, so tonight's main story, we're going to talk about the last 2 weeks of politics. Number one, the big blasphemous Bartholomew. See that finger? Sorry, everyone. Oh my God. The one big bombshell booty call, oddly bigoted, bombastic bullion, Back Bay, Bunny Bayou, Bordelaise. Listen, this stupid bill has been signed into law officially. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think you all know that it sucks. On the surface, it's bad. Right. Below the surface, it's worse. And then if you go deep down, like chisel down to the base of the iceberg, it's horrifying. I mean, quite literally, I think this is the biggest FU that the wealthy have ever given the poors, like you and I. If you're looking for a breakdown on all the detail, all the other stuff, you'll find lots and lots of videos. So, like, if you want, like, a detailed breakdown of what's going on in the big, beautiful bill, I'm not your guy. What I can give you are some high-level overview, we'll call them some notes, some thoughts, and why this is the worst thing that's probably ever happened to America in my lifetime. Let's kick it off. Okay, number one, big, stanky Medicaid restrictions. I don't think people realize just how much is funded by Medicaid. Like a lot of it. A lot. Like a lot. I know a lot about it, as Dan Bongano would say. Clearly, the issue is kicking 12 million Americans off of their health coverage because affordable health care, as we know, is socialism and unpatriotic. Another significant piece of the the ababa, is the fattest gosh dang barrel of pork fat that ICE has ever seen. 75 saucy billionaires worth, ladies and gentlemen. Holy shit. Like, that means that ICE is, like, bigger than parts of the military. Like, bigger than the Marines. That's kind of terrifying. So, just a friendly reminder, in case you haven't been watching the news, the administration is quite literally disappearing people, right? Folks they don't like. They've weaponized the Department of Justice. Take a look at this most recent, incredibly sad news of Colbert being canceled because he basically spoke scathingly of our current president. The parent company, what was it, CBS, Paramount? I know Paramount is in this mix. I think it's CBS, but they're basically just bending the knee to the Trumperino. And it's pretty terrifying. And, now like a staple like Colbert is off the air. So hopefully Colbert finds a home. Yeah, so reminder, administration, kidnapping people. Maybe indirectly, maybe there's been some killing. I don't know. We got to stay away from that word. We don't know yet. There's still speculation there. But they are disappearing folks. They're raiding families' homes. They're raiding Home Depot parking lots, car washes, schools. Most recently, I think in the beginning of August, most recently in the beginning of July, they're calling it Alligator Alcatraz. It's really Alligator Auschwitz. Like, let's be honest. This is literally America's first on-soil concentration camp. If you go looking, you'll find some very, very telling photos comparing Alligator Auschwitz to a concentration camp. I'm not going to bring up an image because I didn't prepare that, and that's on me. So anyway, go look this up. You'll find really telling comparisons, side-by-sides, of German concentration camps from World War II and Alligator Alcatraz, or as I will always call it, Alligator Auschwitz, because that shit is a concentration camp. So that's huge. Really, really terrifying shit. I don't understand how anyone can be okay with any of this. Next on the list, salt. And not table salt. We're talking state and local tax deduction caps. This is one of the murkier things. It may be good, may be bad. Some people will say you're getting benefits out of it. Some people say you're not. So next on the boring, bastardized bill, we have a big, hot, steaming crap on green energy. Like, really pulling the rug. So pretty much all the federal incentives are done at the end of, I think it's at the end of this year. Might be the start of 2026 or the end of 2026. But it's in the next 6 to 12 months. There's basically none of the government money that was helping move green energy along. That's all gone now. This is infuriating to me. Completely infuriating. Because genuinely, you're looking at us giving up our own path to competition in the green energy space. American electric cars kind of suck, especially when you look at the Chinese market. Do yourself a favor. Google some of the Chinese car developers and the Chinese EVs. They are incredible. Like, they look pretty cool. They have way further range. The features that come in like the base models are amazing. And like relative to household wealth, I believe they're also a little bit less expensive. I'll have to fact check myself on that. But the point is, there's an incredible surge of green success coming out of China. And apparently America's like, nah, we don't want that. Energy of the future? Nah. We like our fossil freedom. Oh, gosh. So anyway, that's kind of terrible news. It also seems, at least from what I can see, even without the incentives and things like that, the green energy market is like not going away. It seems even with the federal rug pull, most of these companies, maybe they're going to take a bit of a hit in the stock market initially, but they're just going to keep forging ahead because that's where all the opportunity is. Fossil fuels are not as efficient, anymore, as some of these amazing technologies. And solar is like so much better than it ever used to be. Battery power is insane these days. You get the point. Big green energy. This is what they're calling it, big energy. No, they're not calling it that. Calling it big solar? Who cares what they're calling it? The last thing I'm going to call out is one of the ones that just angers me to no end. Restrictions on SNAP benefits. Friendly reminder is food stamps, currently funded by the government, no longer going to be funded by the government. Well, they're going to change they're changing the way that you qualify for it. So they're really ending up kicking up a ton of people off of this program. And the worst part about it is that, like, there's a lot of kids that depend on SNAP for meals. Breakfast, lunch via SNAP might be the only meal that some of these kids have. That's something that a lot of people do not understand and completely take for granted. Like, when you wake up in the morning, if you don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from, your experience is different than that of other Americans. When you look at this situation, the message is that able-bodied people shouldn't be taking advantage of SNAP. I'm sorry. Like, the fascist dictatorship that we currently live under is not telling the truth. So none of the numbers that they quote, none of the stuff that they bring to the table is truthful. And they know that. They like can't run on the truth because the truth is the opposite of all the terrible shit that they're doing, all the mean things that they say and all the lies that they spread. You have to just wonder, how can any of the constituents that supported Trump's run to office, how can anybody look at kicking millions of families and needy kids off of SNAP benefits? How can you look at that and say that that's okay? I am happy to pay whatever taxes are needed to be giving families meals. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. And in my last episode, again, I just want to remind people, folks like Matthew Desmond are putting information out there where it's undeniable how much money could be gathered by properly taxing the billionaires and lifting everybody up out of poverty. Like, think how much money people would have. Think how much more they would spend. Think how much better quality life would be if we all earned a living wage. Getting kicked to the curb is crazy to me. Let's keep it going. So that whole big, beautiful bill shenanigan nonsense stuff, that was the beginning of the month. We're a ways past the beginning of the month. And this past week, boy, oh boy, this past week, our boy Epstein coming out of the closet. He had been tucked away. They thought they had buried him. And now it is the talk of the town. Almost as much as that CEO and CPO who hooked up at the Coldplay concert and got caught. Affair goes viral. Internet being the internet is what that is. Back on topic here. The Epstein files are suddenly gone? Maybe you're like me and trying to avoid this stuff, or, you don't care, or I don't know. There's a million different reasons why you might not be interested, some of the Epstein stuff that's coming through. But let's summarize a little bit. So if you're totally out of the loop, Epstein basically was a prolific pedophile, had a full-on trafficking ring. So human trafficking, like young girls. Ghislaine, Maxwell, whatever the fuck her name is, hate her, and I will not show her name any respect. She was the groomer, right? She would basically find the girls that Epstein would traffic. And as we know, Epstein and Trump were, probably in Trump's mind still are, but were bestest buddies. They spent a lot of time together. There's a lot of press of them together. There's a lot of photos of them together. There's a lot of photos of them with Maxwell, Ghislaine, whatever the heck her name is, Grizzy Girl. It's kind of undeniable that the Epstein situation was A, terrible, and the people involved, B, should be punished. For whatever reason, the files have never been released. And of course, it's because there's powerful politicals on both sides who've been to the Epstein Island, right? Clinton had been on the plane a few times. I don't know. Name wealthy, famous people in the 90s. Most likely they'd been to the Epstein Island. Some may or may not have realized what they were getting themselves into. It's more than likely that a lot of people knew he was an absolute piece of shit, but he just had so much money that you wanted to be in his good graces. Epstein, at the end of this wild ride, gets caught, is in jail, and supposedly kills himself. The security footage was released, and there's basically some time missing. There's at least 1 minute. Some people are saying there's as many as 3 minutes missing. So there's time missing in the video camera pointed at Epstein's cell. So the longtime conspiracy, right, has been that Epstein didn't kill himself. The reason why Epstein would not have killed himself, and instead had been killed, is because the wealthy and powerful names on his clientele list. So apparently he kept pretty good records, and, a lot of that can get people in some hot water. Trump and the gang, Kash Patel, Bondi, lots of those folks, in the campaign trail, ran on the premise of releasing the Epstein files. As soon as Trump was in office, one of the first press conferences he did involved him basically saying, the reporter asked, would you release the Epstein files? And he was like, yeah, I would do that. I think less so, because you don't want to get people in trouble and hurt people's feelings he said some absolute word salad crap after that, trying to cover his ass. But he just can't seem to escape it, huh? Which I kind of love, just watching this whole squirm fest. Chef's kiss. Squirm for me, Cheeto man. And everyone in the administration has Cheeto dust on their lips, to say the least. It all kind of bubbled back up to the surface this past week. Trump went on several rants on his, social media platform, basically complaining that people were still talking about the Epstein files. And that's kind of where he went wrong. Unfortunately, he could not stop drawing attention to it. Eventually, it culminated in one of his, ridiculous rants saying that all of the Epstein stuff is a hoax created by the Democrats, which is kind of confusing when you consider the court process for Ghislaine and all the documents involved there. And then there are also many other related documents, such as the Katie Johnson testimony, which you can hear on YouTube. And basically, she testifies that Epstein and Trump argue about which of them is going to rape this 13-year-old girl first. That's who MAGA supports. I want to be clear. This information has not been hidden. In the 90s, everyone knew Trump was a scumbag. He said lots of inappropriate shit. On Howard Stern, he talked about going into the dressing room for the modeling pageants that his incredibly creepy modeling group did. I mean, that had to have been a trafficking outlet for Epstein and the team. Of course. Come on. So anyway, there's all these different times where you clearly can see Trump's involvement with Epstein, and not a little bit. Then the biggest kind of most recent blow up, and probably the final straw for Trump, when Wall Street Journal published a letter that he wrote to Epstein with some fun hand-drawn elements that honestly are incredibly crude and disgusting, but on the nose for DJT. This is what's been going on, kind of leading up to this week. There was that huge social media hullabaloo where they gave phase 1 of the Epstein files to those social media influencers. And basically they just re-released all these redacted documents that had absolutely no information. People were even able to figure out where Trump's name was circled in some of those documents that still are redacted, but still people can figure it out. Pam Bondi basically said that there's no new information after reviewing the Epstein files. Incredibly, MAGA seems to finally be angry about this, which blows my mind. Totally blows my mind. I'm kind of grateful. I never thought I'd be even slightly grateful to MAGA, but I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe you do have spines. Finally, it is kind of undeniable, and it's in the public spotlight. Trump is clearly a rapist, pedophile. He can sue for defamation all he wants. He was found convicted, and the court found the descriptor of rape to be truthful and accurate in the court in that specific case that was being tried. So you can complain all you want, you were found guilty of that, and that is who you are. Again, it has become even more undeniable, and those who had their heads in the sand and were hiding under rocks pretending that Trump was anointed by God or something like that can no longer deny the fact that he was inextricably tied up in the Epstein shenanigans. Probably was the right-hand man, frankly, besides Ghislaine. Sure enough, Pam Bondi's like, no, there's no new information. How could we can't share it. There's nothing. Even after saying, oh yeah, we're going to share, here it is, just wait, we're so excited, it's going to be great. Poof, suddenly gone. Oh my gosh. That's the first 2 weeks of July started with the most evil transfer of wealth from the poor to the wealthy. Then Epstein comes back up. Trump denies, and in his denial makes it incredibly clear that he was a part of the mess by trying so hard to hide it, to bury it, to cover it up. They basically have made it undeniable. You just tried too hard. So what can we do? All right. What can we do? Number one, we cannot forget. We're not that far away from midterm elections. It's not that close, but we're less than a year away. Don't let the shit distract you. That's kind of the moral of this story. Like, Ghislaine is rotting in a cell somewhere. Like, that didn't happen for no reason, right? That's not made up. Like, that happened, and you can't deny that. So why is she in there if Epstein is a hoax? Why was she convicted and found guilty? Help me understand. You cannot. At the same time, as I say, don't forget, I'm going to give you conflicting advice. Try not to doom scroll 24/7. I keep talking about momentum. I keep talking about the pendulum swinging back the other way. Thankfully, the incompetence is just consistent. The one consistency is incompetency. And they keep collapsing inward on themselves. So they keep doing stupid things, leaks with Hegseth. It's just a clown show. And that's good for everyone. That's good for Republicans. That's good for Democrats. Because honestly, like, I don't see how the Republicans can recover from what Trump is going to leave them with. Like, other than fixing the elections and having sham elections moving forward, in which case then it's a dictatorship and blah, blah, blah. If you can make it happen, try to take a day off from the doom scrolling, if you can. I know that's hard. There's also more momentum in the election fraud case. So you should keep talking about this, right? They found that in many of the swing states, the numbers are just not making sense. Most recently, the Rockland County Board of Elections issued a request for documents. So that's cool. I'll include a link to that. Basically, every accusation is an admission of guilt, right? History is not going to look kindly on these folks. Folks like Hegseth, Bondi, Castor, Pastor, Dan Bongino. Listen, I wouldn't buy drugs from someone who had Bong in their last name. So the fact that he's in government office continues to blow my mind. Let's talk about some good news. Good news. Ta-da! So here's your first dose of good news. Our friends in Mexico created the world's largest pride flag. So I thought that this was delightful. I thought that this was delightful. A complete slam dunk from our friends in Mexico. Nice job, team. I mean, it's not easy to coordinate human beings. I love the kind of like umbrella, rain slicker color combo to achieve the pride flag. I think it's really, really nice. It's just a shame that we live in a kleptocratic police state, which sucks. Nice job, Mexico. I think this is really cool. I'll share a link to the gallery. I found it on Reddit. There's a bunch of great photos from the event. As you can see, just wanted to share that. Nice job, Mexico. It's amazing how our neighbors like Canada and Mexico still continue to be reasonable places to live. And here we are, America, supposedly the land of the free. The least free we have ever been. God forbid you say anything bad about Trump. Whoops. Continuing the theme, the trend of some good news, I thought that this was really, really cool. You just kind of don't get to see a lot of good news that also celebrates the differently abled or individuals with disabilities. There was an awesome moment, came in late June. I happened to stumble upon this article in early July. I'll read a little bit. I'll share a link so that you can check it out yourself. But here's the headline. Proud father shares the moment his daughter with Down syndrome graduates from college. That's a pretty cool sentence, okay? Hark back to RFK Jr. saying incredibly mean things about folks with autism or any really mental health issue. Sometimes I stumble over these words. You got to talk about it, and you got to fumble a bit to find your way. I'm sure some of you out there try to talk about these things and feel uncomfortable and don't know how to approach it. Hey, good news. We all suck at it. So don't be afraid. People will correct you if they need to. Some will overcorrect you. Some people will be very sensitive. But at the end of the day, we need to show support. Folks of all walks of life. Really cool article. Rachel Handlin, who has Down syndrome, just graduated from California Institute of the Arts with a bachelor in fine arts and photography and media. It's fascinating to me that kind of the creative arts are where she excelled. Kind of makes sense a bit. I've heard, again, anecdotally, and I think there's some scientific research that backs this up, but oftentimes folks that think differently are creative in different ways as well. Sort of unique thinking spawns unique creativity. And also, like, you got to think about it from like walking in her shoes type of thing. I cannot imagine that life is easy for someone who has Down syndrome. She probably had to work quite a bit harder than your standard non-disabled individual, right? She probably had to work a whole lot harder to overcome obstacles and achieve that college degree. Meanwhile, I got kicked out right before I got my college degree. So she's doing better than me, that's for sure. I didn't get a chance to show this before, but my t-shirt says "Make Nazis Afraid Again." I realize that occasionally you might just see like the top two words. You might just see "Make Nazis" on my shirt. Don't fucking make Nazis. Make them afraid again. Once upon a time, they were afraid. They need to be afraid once more. Let's switch topics. We're going to jump over to music. So I want to take a quick second. There's an artist who showed up in my Discover Weekly. I'd like to think I have fairly broad taste in music. You know, I have my niches, but I love discovering new artists. I don't have enough female vocalists in my selection of music. So when I stumble upon talented female vocalists, I always like perk up a bit because it's a place where I recognize I just haven't listened to as much of it as I would like to. Besides, you know, the most popular artists, which they're on the radio all the time. In this case, I stumbled upon Ella Galvin. And I hope I'm saying your name right. But Ella Galvin has a few different, looks like she's got a few different singles. It looks like there's a couple of albums out there. There's not a ton of music from her just yet. Monthly listeners on Spotify, under 50K. She's got like 47.9, just under 48,000. So the song I'm Leaving, which is called the Na Na song, apparently, showed up in my playlist. So without further ado, let me play a little bit of this song for you.
Hello? I'll tell you why it won't work, baby. You're coming off as pretty lazy. I put in too much. You don't do enough.
Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. I got to pause right there. That, my friends, is what we in the music business like to call a tritone. And that's not just any tritone. Like, that is one of the stankiest, in a good way, like one of the fattest, just dirtiest tritones I think I've ever heard. And it's straight up in your face in the melody. And then it resolves up. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. All right, so for those of you who are not musicians, you're like, what the heck did you just say? None of that makes any sense. Let me grab my bass and I'll explain. So they're playing in D. What is a tritone? Well, the easiest way to think about this is every scale has 8 steps or 8 notes within it. There are exceptions, but for example, most scales like a major or a minor scale have 8 steps. So let me play. We're in the key of D, this song anyway. So a D major scale sounds like this. That's the arpeggio at the end. But basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, 8 scale degrees. Why do you care about a tritone? Why do you care about scale degrees after I've explained a tritone? Well, a tritone is the note that's between the 4th and the 5th scale degree. The idea here is that between note number 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so between 4 and 5 is the tritone. And it's such a distinct sound. That tritone is also sometimes called a leading tone because your ear hears it trying to resolve. Typically, they want to resolve either up or down. In this case, the tritone wants to resolve up to the fifth. So in the melody, you just heard basically her sing that note, and then she goes up to the fifth. And that's really fascinating. You just don't hear tritones a lot in music. Let's do that one more time.
I'll tell you why it won't work, baby. You're coming off as pretty lazy. I put in too much.
And then she goes up to the fifth. Oh, Ella. Tasty. Oh my gosh, girl. That resolve is just delish. Cool. Okay, so that I love that song. If you get a chance, go listen to the whole thing because she's outstanding. Her vocals are insane. And yeah, you just don't hear tritones in the melody. Hopefully you've learned some fun music theory from today's episode. Boy, oh boy, what a delight. Thanks, Ella. Appreciate that. What a delicious tune. Oh my gosh. All right, let's keep moving. And now, in gaming. So today, as many of us are aware, there's a company called Steam. And every summer, Steam has a sale. It is the Steam Summer Sale. Now, sadly, today, it has passed. But every year, when the Steam Summer Sale comes around, I get excited. You know, I'm looking at all the things that I missed, what's on sale, what AAA title did I not get because I wanted it to come down in price, things like that. I always buy like a stack of games in the Steam Summer Sale, and without fail, never play any of them. Well, maybe 50-50 shot of actually playing the game. It's almost like kind of a quantum state of game ownership. I both own and don't own everything I buy from the Steam Summer Sale until I actually install and play them. At this point, like, I think it's been 10 years, like, there's a lot of games from Summer Sale that I have not even started to chip away at. Love Steam Summer Sale. It's a great time to be alive. I picked up Expedition 33. That was my scoop up from the most recent Steam Summer Sale. I'll keep my eyes out for other good stuff too. And speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, 2025 is shaping up to be quite a year for gaming. Already had some great stuff coming out, but the second half of 2025 is insane. So most recently, Death Stranding 2 just came out. Widely praised that it is Kojima cooking with gas. And I am a Kojima fanboy ever since Metal Gear Solid 2 and playing as Snake and Raiden. The exclamation sound just lives rent-free in my brain. Also, if you haven't played any of the Death Stranding games, I dare say Leah Seydoux, if I'm saying her last name correctly, she is, what's even the right way to phrase this? Just wow. I mean, she looks spectacular. The capturing of all the different characters in the games, like Guillermo del Toro is a character in Death Stranding. Norman Reedus, right, is the main sort of hero. Anyway, it looks amazing. I'm super excited. I'm going to grab that. Have not yet, even though it's been out for a few weeks. Hopefully we'll remedy that sometime soon. Now I'm already talking about Kojima. So Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, also on the horizon. Probably one of my most anticipated titles for the year, with one or two exceptions. That's very, very high on my radar. That's one that I'll probably pre-purchase, grab that on PS5, sort of my preferred platform right now, just because my gaming PC is a bit behind the times. Not bad, but we're not running things at max settings at 4K. Not anymore. So Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, super, super excited. It's quite literally an HD remaster of the old game. It seems like there's going to be, enough new stuff that the veterans will want to pick it up, refreshed enough so that people who didn't experience it back in the day will be able to hop in and kind of enjoy. I'm excited for another completely convoluted plot that doesn't make any sense but is widely praised for no clear explicable reason. Love me some Kojima nonsense. I have always been a Metroid fan. For me, Super Metroid. Yeah, Super Metroid was one of the first games that my dad bought back when I was a little kid. I was 5 or 6 years old in 95, 92, 93. Well, that's when Super Nintendo was in its heyday. If I remember correctly, I think Super Metroid came out in 94. And I remember my dad bought it, and the rest is history. I don't think any game got so much playtime on the Super Nintendo as Super Metroid. Basically, the second my dad finished a file, he would just start a new game almost immediately. And I don't blame him. I played through it multiple times. It's still one of my favorites of all time. I can't quite replay it with that consistency, but once upon a time, it was amazing. So anyway, there's a new Metroid Prime that's going to be coming out, number 4. I believe it is subtitled Beyond. Metroid Prime Beyond. Pretty excited for that. I played the first 2, Prime and Prime Echoes. I did not play Prime 3, so I may have to catch up a bit. But Prime 4 sounds awesome, and I'll probably grab that on Switch. I'm not a Switch 2 guy yet. It's hard to justify all the money for a Switch when I already have, or Switch 2 when I already have a Switch 1. Yeah. Metroid Prime 4. Excited. Ghost of Yotai. I think I'm saying that right. I fully played through Ghost of Tsushima, started a New Game Plus, probably got about halfway. I think in total I may have put about 100 hours into Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima in particular I have a very soft spot for that game because I was dealing with like a lot of depression when the game came out. It's such a, it's a captivating game and it's got an incredible story, but there are many moments where you're sort of riding around on horseback and it's just spectacularly beautiful. Like the Golden Temple, when you arrive, is constantly showering golden leaves and they swirl around you as you walk, and it's pretty spectacular. And then, there's other iconic things like cherry blossoms. There's this incredible ending scene. It's a vibe, and it's like a really relaxing and peaceful game to play. And there's a lot of themes about that sort of like, developing oneself, dealing with inner turmoil, finding purpose. Like these are all messages, themes within the game. So it just happened to arrive at a time in my life when I was very introspective. And so the story just hit for me. So I'm super excited for Ghost of Yotai. This is not a direct continuation. My understanding is that it happens a certain period of time after the first game. So I think it's like 100 or a couple hundred years after. So it's still in feudal Japan, but there's, more technology development, and you're not going to see any of the characters from the first game. Maybe there'll be some lineages, maybe there'll be some references, but I don't even know where they fit geographically relative to each other. So there may be no continuation whatsoever, which could be cool. Borderlands 4, lots of hype around Borderlands 4. Lots of hype. Wild hype, one might even say. I think they just moved it back again, but there was hope for GTA 6. I don't know if it's still going to come out in 2025. I hope so. That's one that I'm interested in. Maybe one that I like pick up on sale or look for a promotional offer or something like that. I think the last most exciting game for me, there's many other titles coming out later this year, but for me, the ones that I'm like really excited about include Gears of War. There's another remaster, the remaster of Gears of War Remastered, the remastering. This one is pretty big for me because my entire group of friends played tons of Gears of War when we were kids. The first Gears of War in particular arrived at a very fortuitous time. I say kids, we weren't really kids. We were in our late teens, early 20s. It was so like 05, 06. 360 had just kind of arrived on the scene, had only been in market for a year or two. And then Gears of War arrives, and it's an insane blockbuster hit. Me and the buddies played tons of it. The hilarious chainsawing animation, like all these things are nostalgia personified for me. So we're so excited for this. It's probably one of the few times that I might actually get a whole group of my friends in one gaming session together. Kind of crazy to think about. I might actually be able to get a group of 4 or 5 people maybe even 6. What? I might even be able to get a half a dozen of friends. I can't even believe I still have half a dozen friends. So very excited about that. The only thing I'm worried about, though, is with any shooter, any game, even though Gears of War is a third-person shooter, any shooting game with online multiplayer has this effect that is unavoidable. Basically, someone has been playing that game since it came out, and you are never, ever going to be as good as that person. They are out there. There's always a bigger fish in every single video game ever that you've ever played. I'm excited for Gears of War, the remaster, especially because of the possibility of private lobbies, which will exist. I mean, the likelihood of me actually getting a group of friends together to play could be really, really fun. I probably will dabble a little bit in the actual online, but assuming that those like really talented people are still out there just destroying people in online lobbies, yeah, I may have to avoid that so that I don't feel complete shame and can enjoy the game. Okay, and then for our final topic of today, last little bit that I'll leave you with, the Games Done Quick Marathon happens twice a year. Awesome Games Done Quick happens in December, and Summer Games Done Quick happens in July. Usually it's around July 4th. Every year they get together. It's sort of like a full program of speedrunning content. I love speedrunning. If you're not familiar with a speedrun, basically it means beating a video game as quickly as possible. And there are many ways you can do that. There's categories and styles of run. But it's really just, simply put, trying to beat a game as fast as you can. And people compete on that, which is awesome. The Games Done Quick group have been around for over a decade. I mean, I remember watching some of their early marathons in like 2012, 2011, and they donate the proceeds to MSF, which is Médecins Sans Frontières, which for us English speakers, Doctors Without Borders. I apologize to any French folks who heard me say that and completely butchered the pronunciation. All the good stuff is there. I mean, if you like any video game, there's probably a good representation of the stuff you like. So if you like Zelda games, there are some spectacular Zelda runs. I watched the Majora's Mask run, which was awesome. If you like Mario games, there's old school Mario, new school Mario, everything in between. There's kart games being run. All that stuff is in there. Imagine beating your favorite Zelda game in less than 20 minutes with absolutely no upgrades acquired, using incredible glitches and things like that. It's incredibly entertaining, like really entertaining stuff to watch these folks break the game that you thought was impossible when you were a kid. Like, I remember Sonic games. There's always a big block of Sonic games in every Games Done Quick marathon. But watching some of these guys like zip through walls and things to complete levels in seconds it's magic. It's totally crazy. Spectacular stuff for a great cause. I'll link to the GDQ YouTube channel. Even though the event has passed and you can't donate anymore, you can still watch all the videos on demand, all the VODs, on YouTube and on Twitch. And with that, hopefully, we balanced the bad news out with enough good stuff. Talking a little bit about music, some good news, splash of all exciting games coming out later this year. Yeah, interesting time. We're going to try to be more consistent with the show moving forward, try to be weekly and get back on track. Sorry that we missed a few, but this should play a bit of catch up. And don't forget, make the Nazis afraid again. Thanks for watching.